On December 19, 2018, around 9 p.m. in the evening, a security guard at Gatwick Airport was standing at a bus stop after the end of his shift. Waiting for his bus to arrive, he stared into the distance before noticing something odd. An object that appeared to be a drone was hovering just over a car parked on the airport's premise. And then suddenly, another one, which seemed to be flying along the airport's perimeter fence. Following standard procedure, the security guard immediately notified airport officials, and only minutes later, all flights from and to Gatwick Airport were suspended. Again, standard procedure. What followed were more than 48 hours of ongoing drone sightings, chaos, miscommunication, and even false arrests. Only one thing was missing from all of this: hard proof that there ever even was a single malicious drone. This is Beyond Gatwick: Ghost Drones. Let's go back to that initial drone sighting once again, because in my intro I skipped over two very important details. First, it was 9 p.m. in December in the UK, which means it was completely dark, except for street lamps and the airport's floodlights. Second, at that particular time and day, it was raining. Now, while many, if not most, drones are incapable of flying through heavy weather, the important takeaway here is that it's actually not that easy to spot a drone in the dark, especially when it's also raining. Unless the drones were literally a few meters away, all the security guard could have seen were LED lights. Which is probably why there has never been a definitive description of the first two drones that were spotted. In a tweet from December 20, Sussex police described the drones as having an industrial specification, whereas the final police report describes it as a commercial type drone. But regardless of what the security guards saw or didn't see, within minutes the airport was closed for flights and the police arrived at the scene. For hours, drones were reported as sighted, but the police were unable to ban the threat or catch the culprit. The runway was temporarily reopened in the morning hours of the 20th, but immediately closed again when the sightings continued. At this point, the police had no other choice but to issue a statement that they were facing a, quote, deliberate and malicious act. And this is where things started to get really interesting. According to a report issued by the private defense company Leonardo, their Falcon Shield counter-drone system was deployed at Gatwick by the Royal Air Force in the evening hours of the 20th. This system is supposedly capable of tracking a relatively small commercial drone at up to 1 kilometer of distance. But there was just one problem. While the reports of new drone sightings continued to flood in throughout the evening hours of the 20th, Falcon Shield failed to detect even a single drone. So what was the issue here? Did the system not work correctly? Well, according to the Sussex police, there was just one way to find out: launch a series of so-called friendly drone test sorties. Or in other words, the police decided to launch their own drones, have them fly across the airport where hundreds of people were looking for drones, and then check whether or not the system picked them up. Well, the good news is, the system did pick them up, every single one. It worked flawlessly, of course. But this didn't help the chaos and noise of people now spotting police drones, thinking it was the culprit. And as if this wasn't enough already, even before that, the police used their own drones to find the malicious one, further adding to the chaos. Sussex Police Chief Constable Giles York was quoted as saying, "Of course, we will have launched our own Sussex police drones at the time, with a view to investigate, with a view to engage, with a view to survey the area, and looking for the drone, so there could be some level of confusion there." Now, without going through every single piece of misinformation that was published over the course of the incident, let's quickly look at this video, Daily Mail Online, published in the evening hours of the 20th, that clearly shows a quadcopter flying over Gatwick Airport. Looking at some of the markings, one can see that this was taken at the number 8 and 9 bus stop at Forlong Way. So it's highly likely that this video is in fact authentic, in that it shows a real actual quadcopter flying on the premise of Gatwick Airport. But does it show the actual perpetrator's drone, the malicious device that caused all the confusion? That would be rather unlikely, as the police did review it and concluded it was of no significance, which in turn made a lot of people wonder. After days of chaos, during which thousands of people with smartphones were at the airport, not to mention journalists with modern high-end cameras and telephoto lenses, as well as the police and military with their own drones and top-tier airport surveillance equipment, Was no one able to capture a photo, video, or any other proof of the supposed threat? Well, apparently not. And just as the final icing on the cake, on the 23rd of December, the airport was reopened, despite further ongoing drone sightings. They were just simply ignored, and airport officials started trusting Falcon Shield, as they probably should have from the very beginning. But of course, that's easy to say in hindsight. In late April of 2022, we saw an eerily familiar case in Hamburg, Germany. During the final rehearsal of a drone light show around the famous Elbphilharmonie concert hall, 300 drones were supposed to, quote, dance to the second movement of the piano concerto by Thomas Adès. And as you can see in this video, they were more or less successful, despite the very difficult conditions of flying so close to and behind a building, above water, and with lots of radio interference by the port of Hamburg. All other light shows done by the operator Drone Stories were in much more forgiving conditions, way higher and far away from such strong sources of radio interference. For the port of Hamburg, we already know that this is not a given, and people even sometimes have problems getting a signal on their phone. Despite that, the rehearsal took place, and as you can probably expect, when things went south, the organizer blamed supposed high-speed drones for a deliberate interruption of the event and the eventual cancellation of the main show. Now, as we've seen before, spotting these drones is difficult, both on video and with your naked eye. So it's basically impossible to disprove the existence of any drone solely based on the video footage. But if we take a closer look at some of the many videos of this event, we can see that at least the drones that are part of the show are both visible when they are illuminated and when they are not. And in this particular moment, we can clearly see that one illuminated drone stops its ascent, while the others are moving past it. It then starts to flicker and move down, while at the same time a different drone starts flickering and rapidly descending. Let's enhance this further, because we can actually see one illuminated drone getting approached by a different, non-illuminated one that's clearly part of the show. And they crash into each other, which in turn leads to one quadcopter falling into the Elbe. Now, this was obviously an accident, probably due to poor GPS correction data and radio interference. But even in much more forgiving conditions, drones crashing during light shows is actually quite a common occurrence. For example, just a few weeks ago, during a similar show in Perth, quite a few drones fell out of the sky, and in an interview, the operator was quoted as saying, 2 to 3 drones failing per show is actually normal. Even more so than with Gatwick, it seems preposterous that the press would simply repeat the organizers' claims of a coordinated attack, when people were able to witness with their own eyes and cameras that the drones were capable of crashing rather well on their own. Never mind that no unauthorized drones were ever spotted. But at least in this case, German public broadcaster NDR did report on the doubts, including the fact that this show cost the taxpayer €300,000, a sum you would probably get mad about if it were wasted because of unnecessary risks. The bitter reality of these cases is that humans, even qualified pilots and supposed experts, are notoriously unreliable. There is countless UAP cases where pilots mistook stars, balloons, or other airplanes for drones. Like in April of 2019, where an Aer Lingus ATR-72 passing over the Bristol Channel reported a quadcopter passing only meters overhead. The captain supposedly noticed a small object in the distance, alerted his first officer, and both confirmed it to be a quadcopter, around 30 centimeters in size. Given that the aircraft was moving at a speed of more than 300 km per hour, it is somewhat hard to believe that the pilot would even be able to spot such a small object, let alone react in time to alert his first officer. Later analysis of ADS-B data revealed that the described relative position of the object perfectly matched an Airbus A320 that was crossing almost 10 kilometers overhead. But from the angle of the cockpit, the 30-meter wide Airbus did look like a 30-centimeter drone, even to seasoned experts. This list could go on, but I think we've made a point here. People are notoriously unreliable at identifying things in the sky. And this wouldn't even be so bad if the public didn't use every single one of these cases to call for more strict regulations on drones. Which from their point of view might even be understandable, because the high number of these reports paints a grim picture of daily drone attacks on our infrastructure and reckless pilots deliberately causing mayhem. Unfortunately, the only thing that can really be done against this narrative is to sensitize journalists. to ask them to be more skeptical and not just repeat any claim without evidence. Hopefully, technology like Falcon Shield will become more and more common, raising the bar of what evidence can realistically be collected. Because the fact remains that it can be very challenging to catch a drone on video, especially if it didn't exist in the first place. Hi there, and thanks for watching another one of my videos. If you're a returning subscriber and wondering where I've been for the past 6 months, well, I got married. 2023, however, is of course going to be full of new videos. So again, thanks for watching and see you next time.